Welcome again, everyone. Good afternoon. Thank you for joining NCBA and the American Red Cross as we host a webinar on prepare for hurricanes, tornadoes, floods, and long-term effects. Our presenter, Marco Johnson with the American Red Cross, National Capital and Greater Chesapeake region is back with us today. Marco has served with the American Red Cross for over 10 years as a lead for the Reunification Safe and Well program, a demonstrator for the hands-only CPR, and a trainer in assisted living and long-term care facilities. Also, in his responsibilities, he supports the disaster services technology, the community preparedness education, the Be Red Cross Ready activities, and the Pillowcase Project. Welcome, Marco. The floor is yours. We so highly receive you and information today. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much. Welcome, everybody. Preparing for hurricanes, tornadoes, floods, long-term effects. Take a deep breath now with me, because that's a lot to think about. It's very important, and we will have a context of Be Red Cross Ready. And we're thinking before, during, and after emergencies, disasters, and finding out what we can do to be safe. Marco Johnson, there's my email, and American Red Cross teaches life-saving skills, provides a blood program, and serves military families, provides international aid, and reunification services. These reunification services are going on heavily at this time because we are responding to all the people in the hurricane that's just hit the Florida, the North Carolina, Mississippi, South Carolina, southwestern Virginia, all these areas and regions and parts of Tennessee. And with the rains, with the tornadoes, the hurricane has made some tornadoes. So there are many people looking how to be reconnected, or they're separated from their families, their households, their groups, and their friends. And maybe you're looking for somebody who is down in the area of these hurricanes and tornadoes. And so one way is that the Red Cross can help you, 1-800-RED Cross, and tell them that who you're looking for and things like that. So reunification was one of the early things that the Red Cross was started by helping reunite people during wartime and emergencies and disasters and things like that. The Red Cross does a lot of planning with local governments, with nonprofits, with organizations, partners with companies to plan for and deliver the disaster relief. Getting down and helping. There are hundreds of Red Cross shelters opened up already down in the hurricane area, and the Red Cross has a lot of volunteers and paid staff down there. This is very important to know that there's plans going on way ahead of the event and agreements with the local officials and the local organizations so that when a disaster does come, we can come in with relief and help with recovery services. That's how we be Red Cross ready. An important thing that we're already learning is last couple of weeks, we're saying, hey, what's going on? I need to be informed. I need to how to stay alert. So right from the beginning, there's the redcross.org. You could go there and you could say alerts. You can say mobile apps. You can say, where's my first aid app? You have the app of emergencies. You have the app of first aid. And so these can be on your phone and you can go to the websites to get this information. So it's an important aspect of looking and finding out what to do and how to be informed. And especially if you're thinking about somebody who is down in the hurricane, in the floods, in the tornadoes, and you're up here and it's sunny, right? Where you are. And you say, well, how can I help? Do they need water? What can I collect? Right? Important. Be informed. Here's some resources for you. One of my favorites is right smack in the middle there, Capital Alerts. Capital Alerts. And then there is the Red Cross and the link and for emergency mobile apps at the Red Cross, or you go to your smartphone into the App Store and type in Red Cross Emergency. There's the Federal Emergency Management Agency has a mobile app. You could go to ready.gov and they have information to help you be informed, knowing what to do before, during, and after. Right there, look here, we've got in state of Virginia and Fairfax County has a mobile app. So here's what you can do. Wherever you are, if you're in DC, there's Ready DC, there's ready.gov for the federal, and then there's Ready Maryland, and here's Virginia's being ready, emergency management. And you could find out then about the storms, about the weather, about the floods, about the hurricanes, what's happening where you are. And you could find out then in North Carolina, South Carolina, Florida, Tennessee, wherever there is some alerts and some weather, you can be informed because in a lot of the alerts, you could pick where you want, right? So even if you did weather.gov and you could look in and put in the state, the region, the area you're looking for, right? So be informed, learn about alerts, what kinds of things you can be alerted to, because you can help yourself feel a little more calm knowing that what's really going on, what's not going on, and maybe even on the news, they'll tell you, like I heard, I got an alert and it said 1 week people have been considered missing. They haven't been heard of from this whole town, this village on the other side of a mountain. All the roads were washed away. There was no way, there was no connection of phones or radios, that nobody got into this area. A week later, somebody got through, went over the mountain on foot and found 200 people in a church. And they were okay coming together with their supplies and their water. So learn to be alerted, and you can find out more than one way so that you could be able to help other people also. You need to be ready, don't you? You need to be informed. You need to be alert. Because what are we seeing in these hurricanes right now in the last 1 week and 2 weeks? Not hearing about people, major roads just disappearing. Southwest Virginia, Route 58. There's a whole part of it all washed away. You can only see a white line on the side of where the road used to be. So the help may not come right away. Right? That's the difference between an emergency and a disaster. If it gets to be a disaster and roads are washed out, there's no way ambulances or help or people can come to you. Right? So a disaster has exceeded the limits of the resources. Right? It'll take them time to come. So when you're prepared by yourself, who does that help? Yourself, right? And then your household, then your neighbors, then responders, right? So that's very important. There is a need to be ready. Everybody, whoever you are, you need to be ready. There's a link that helps you how to prepare for emergencies from the Red Cross, right? We want to respond. We want to prepare, respond, and recover. We want to recover quickly. We want to reduce the trauma, right? That's very important. All right, this I went and looked and got for us. It was here when this hurricane came through and hit the landfall coming into Florida. And I think they're telling us, if we're getting all the statistics and history together, that this was one of, it's going to be on the history books. This is the big and bad one, competing against all the big and bad ones in history. All right. So look at here, September 26th to 27th. It's moving through the southeast. But guess what? Look at where it's covering. Look at all those states. Bam, boom, and all the way up to Virginia. And that's how, from the Carolinas, Virginia, and then Tennessee, Florida, oh my goodness, and Georgia. So you can look, I got this on weather.gov, and you could listen and do the see how it's going and where it's going. So it helps you prepare. This is very important to have alerts and to be tracked with what's going on. Being informed. Guess what? Is that a message coming to you now? Being informed. How are you going to get information? How do you get information now? And now that you're learning about what to do before, you're going to start getting your alerts. You're starting to go and be informed on how you get information, how you learn and pay attention to the weather. And guess what? The instructions from authorities are very important. They'll tell you when to stay and when to go and other things. What roads are washed away, what bridges are down, what's broken, where the power's out. Okay. And then it'll help you be informed on what to do and where to go or stay. So from our hurricane that hit Florida there in September, now they're talking about this September 27. My goodness. So this hurricane at this point in time looks like it produced 6 confirmed tornadoes across southeast North Carolina and northeast South Carolina. So here's a hurricane that hits Florida, right? And jumps and pops up and creates hurricanes and it tracks the path. And that's why having alerts and being informed, you'll know what's happening, how big and bad the devastation is. Very important to know this is real and there's hundreds and thousands of people that need help. So as part of planning your needs, right? Thinking about it, what are you doing? There's forms to help you fill it out, right? We put some links for you in the chat as we go through this conversation. But you need to understand before and then what would happen if during, if we had the floods, if we had the hurricane, right? What are your medical needs, right? What are you thinking? Do you stay cool and calm all the time, or do you need some help just to keep calm? And how to plan ahead of time to reduce any trauma. Very important. And pay attention to what the authorities say about going or staying and what to do, and they'll help you out. Learning what's already where you are, at home, at work, at school, at the library, at the rec center, wherever you go. If the workout gym, okay, wherever you go, you plan on what do you have with you for yourself? What do you need to have on you? So let's look at this. Oh my goodness. Here was just, I took this one and this goes through October 10th. That's today. And look down here, we have the yellow, severe thunderstorms possible, heavy rain, flash flooding possible. That's back in Florida and Georgia, touch in South Carolina. And this was just the other day, and they're planning this, and I think they gave it a name. Right here, it says Hurricane Milton. So what does that mean? They gave it a name. They gave the hurricane a name, and it's strong, and I believe it hit landfall. I think the whole eye came over Florida already, and it's coming up. So it's your job now to check in with your links and find out if you have a weather.com or wherever you can have a link, and check to see where is this moving, and look where the lows and the highs are and see what's happening. Is it coming from where you live? And how do you prepare? Are you ready? Important to learn the maps and get informed and check it out. Plan. Things to consider. Do you shelter in place or do you evacuate? And who helps with that decision? Sometimes the local authorities help you because they're telling you that Old Town Alexandria is 4 feet above the street and it's coming the rest, the Potomac River, Chesapeake Bay is flooding. So you need to be informed. You need to have your plan. What are you going to do for the kinds of things that happen where you are, where you go? Right? Whatever you need, think about it. And guess what? Some of us have pets, and you think the pet needs food and water also. The pet may have other things. So you need to know where to go, and you need to listen to the warnings. So look here at the last bullet, right? Several warning messages, multiple sources. You have to trust the source. All right. And then you may find out that there's some evacuation. So what if you have to evacuate? Here's some points to help you think about. Getting these messages from family and friends. Where are you going? If you're going to evacuate, you have to know where you're going. How many places? Do they take pets? All right. So sometimes if there's a declared emergency by the governor, then some motels, hotels, places who didn't take pets before, if there's a state of emergency for that area, may take pets. But you need to know what is pet friendly. You need to know who has accessibility for your wheelchairs and things like that. And do you have accommodations? So you need to know where to go and step through all the different things that you may need to know about the different ways if you have to evacuate. While we're thinking on before and what to do, we're saying, hey, the best thing is to have a support network, right? Who can help? Is there family, friends? Is there neighbors? Are there caregivers? Right? Build that network, find out, and then the caregivers also have to be ready. While we're thinking of this big bad weather coming up the coast, guess what? The most things that may happen around the United States and around our area are the fires, starting with the home fires. And some people told me the other day they have never heard a smoke alarm. Well, somebody, that's your task. You know, if you've ever heard a smoke alarm, let's put that in the chat. I'd like to know who has heard a smoke alarm or who has a smoke alarm, where they go, where they stay, or where they visit, where you sleep. What does the chat say about smoke alarms? Who has smoke alarms? Who's heard them? And then I'm thinking, when I was in some places going to school, and then when I was working, what did we do? We had a fire drill, a smoke alarm drill, and we had to line up and we had to go outside and practice and meet at the flagpole or at the playground. So that's what I'd like to know in the chat. Who's ever been in a practice fire drill or practice hearing the smoke detectors go off and going outside? How's the chat doing? Right? Are people having smoke detectors, I think? Do we have
Yes.
some?
So Marco, in the chat, we do see that. So people have experienced, including myself, smoke detectors. We see flashing lights, bed shakers that are important. People are saying they've heard smoke alarms in Tallahassee. smoke alarms, but no fire plan yet. So yes, the chat is buzzing with what's going on.
That's important because then now we want to be able to take a breath and tell other people, hey, you need to know what it sounds like, because when it goes off, you need to go out the house and call 911. So we can't get all upset, excited when the smoke alarm goes off and not know what to do. You need to practice and learn ahead of time. So this is a real Red Cross shelter. And here the lady was prepared. She had the food and she had the little toys and things for her pets. She had 2 dogs and 2 birds, and she was all set up and accommodated in a Red Cross shelter that accepted pets. Right? So that's the other thing is, there are different kind of shelters, and you need to be able to make sure and tell people you have a pet, and they may be right next to you, and you could be in the shelter. But the lady was ready. She had her backpack. She had her change of clothes. What else is important? What else is important? Well, we have to look and think about what to bring with us, right? If we stay or if we go. Oh, you mean I need to get ready and be prepared if I stay? Yes. And then if I go, you mean somebody may say the flood or the fire or the hurricane is coming right down our street. It's going to hit our building, right? What does that mean? What does that mean? So we're thinking in terms of, hey, what do I need if I stay? So in that bottom right-hand corner, here's a little box, and here you could pick things that you need to stay. You need the household kit, and they say 3 to 5 days. Some people even say 2 weeks. If there's no power, if you don't see food on the shelves, if you can get to a grocery store. So you need that food and water, right? That's the bottom right hand. You need the special items, the first aid. So many times where you are staying and where you sleep, you need to make sure that there's some things there if they say you have to stay, right? So here's the other thing. If you go, there's that up in the right-hand corner, then you would say, oh, I need to go. So some people have a bigger bag with different things in it that they need to go. That's their personal needs and important for them, their medications and things. But look at, sometimes I'm telling people you need to have something that you really take with you almost everywhere you go. And that's why I like the waist packs. You can have your identity in a pocket, right? Special, your account numbers and things for you to remember to take with you. I know some people have been in house fires down the street, my neighbor, and they had everything burned up. But in the waste pack was copies of their identity, right? Their birth certificates and things like that. So we need to know, think in terms and study what you need to have if you go or if you stay for all places, right? Vehicles, there's a kit, the things to put in for your car. A lot of them have some kind of food, some kind of food bars, granola bars or different kind of things that you're not allergic to. There's certain things that you would put in the car. And it's like, what goes with you in the big one? What you have almost every day already ready with your identity and your important items. And then here in the big one, if you have to stay and you can't go out and there's no power in the grocery store, there's no power in the restaurants. We've had that before. I've already been, whether power was out for 9 days and there's no ATMs or no electronic banking or anything, right? The other things, one of my favorite is a crank phone. Right, a crank phone telephone is, we had a picture of that back up where our man was at his computer And the crank radio, it has the flashlight in it. It has the weather band in it. It has the plug in it to recharge your phones. All right. So it's an AM, FM radio, weather band. And I have a crank radio that even listens in to the ham radio signal. And it's solar powered, crank powered, and battery, and you can put in a plug. Right? So the crank radio that has all those power features will help you be informed, and that's one of my favorite ones. So in the chat, here's the list. Tell me what of these kind of hazards have you found? These are favorite weather things that happen. The most one that reoccurs across the United States and many countries around the world is home fires. Home fires. How many have been in a home fire or know somebody who had a home fire? Let's talk about that. So in the chat, have you had a home fire? Have you seen or been in a hurricane, tornado, or flood? That's what we're talking a lot about today. Hurricanes, tornadoes, and floods. So in the chat, let me know which one of these things you've been in or have seen. Now, I know some people have seen them on the Weather Channel on TV or on their internet. They go to weather.gov. So let me know in the chat what we're thinking about.
So again, Marco, in the chat, we see we've had people experience a home fire of a family member, tornadoes, earthquakes, many hurricanes, I see. Thunderstorms, flood, and hurricane.
There you go. And we're seeing a whole lot more when of our friends down south in the south, right? Here's another way to help you. It's just a quick chart and look at the colors, right? And the orange says earthquakes and hurricanes, but the green says hurricanes and tornadoes. And Virginia says hurricanes, right? So coming up our coast, moving out down the Gulf Coast, here's the different things that you could be aware of. So they tell us to think in terms of a local hazard. And we said house fires. And now the next local thing is thunderstorms and lightning. And in the chat, tell me what causes thunder? What causes thunder? And if you hear the thunder, what do? Tell me in the chat. If you hear thunder, what do you do? Yes. So we're getting ready for the thunderstorms. They bring the rain and flash floods, right? But not about all the water. It's about that there's lightning, right? The thunderstorm and it's lightning. That's the dangerous part. You hear the thunderstorm, the lightning travels faster than the thunder. So be alert, learn about your weather, learn about what to do. Go inside and don't plug things in. All right, stay away from anything that conducts electricity. So we're learning lightning causes thunder. Lightning causes thunder. Get indoors. Get indoors. Now, here's Marco's cat. Tell me, what this cat's supposed to be doing? Is this a watch or a warning? What's the chat say? Is this a watch or a warning?
See, warning.
I think he's supposed to take some action. All right, let's get that cat out of there. All right, hurricanes. What do hurricanes do? They bring the high winds, the heavy rain, the storm surges, the rip tides, all these things that come up, but it's the hurricanes that make the tornadoes. Here's what we're learning about the stages. What is very interesting is when it goes to up, it gets named at 74 plus miles, it's a hurricane. So when it's going that fast and all those speeds of that maximum speeds, then if they name it, start your plan. All right, so what are the seasons? Right, where we are, June through November, and then in Pacific, they have May through November. Wow, good. My goodness. What about these hurricanes? They make the devastation, they rip up concrete roads. Things can be destroyed, it's devastating. There's the watch, but the warning, it's imminent, it's going to occur, right? Finish your preparations, evacuate if we're told to. We have different kind of kits. We plan and prepare. Soon as we get our information, we get ready, we check everything. We modify the plan. Is it coming right to us? Is it going past us? We don't know yet. Modify your plans, listen and be informed. When it's okay, listen to your news, listen to the weather, check your disaster kits if you have to stay. See if you have your cash in case there's no ATMs or nobody accepts a charge card, which has happened to me in the DC area already. All right. And get your important documents together in your waste pack, right? And follow local officials. You need water, food. Think about what your functional needs are when it's coming. Where are you going to go? Which way to go? What's in your go bag? Do you have your bag ready for everybody? All right. Here's a recent the other day, and if you could look at this at redcross.org shelters and click on these, you could find where all the shelters are. Where are the shelters? And then this, of course, I could move this map across the whole United States. I'm focusing on, look at all the shelters we have already opened up 2 weeks ago, and then moving all our volunteers there. So be informed. And now if you have this, because we're safe here in the Washington, DC area right now, we can collect the information. When people call us looking for people, wondering what's going on, we could help people. How do you stay safe? I don't think glass is friendly, so stay away from the glass, stay inside, and don't touch the floodwaters. And if there's flood on your roads or where you're going, turn around, don't drown. So after the hurricane, watch out, there's still hazards. There's still things that can be coming. You can still have some rain and still monitor your weather channel. Watch out, there's down wires that the power may still be on or may be off, and then all of a sudden comes on. Watch out where you smell a gas. There could be leaks, and check your emergency app from the Red Cross. When you're planning for the next things, you can still put shutters. And look at here, these are metal things that clip together to go on the outside windows. Right? You can remove things, and you could think about flood insurance to make sure you're covered. Now, we talked about hurricanes. Hurricanes make floods, right? So turn around, don't drown. And flooding is one of the most frequent natural disasters in the United States after the ones in the kitchen fires, right? It's dangerous. Once again, what's a watch, what's a warning? And then if they have the flash flood warning, really move to higher ground and take the action in your plan. Hello, has anybody been in a flood? I hope I hope you're okay. We're talking about what happens in the flood, in the drowning or whatever. So let's pay attention. The water is contaminated. Don't walk in it just because it's fun. So we're learning about staying informed, listen to the radio. When it's predicted, you still know where to go. Check your disaster kits, check your radios. Over there in this picture we're just showing you, that's where they used to play the ball games. It's a park, and there was a trail going through the little valley. Now it's all filled up. Here's another example of how high the main road, even a week later, it still has all the flood hazards. You have to have steps after the flooding. You still have to be careful. Things could be contaminated. You need a cleanup kit and to work with your local services. Right? Checking the backflow and about the basement and see how if your insurance helped you. We talked about hurricanes. We did the floods. Now here's the tornadoes. There's over 1,000 a year and over 1,000 people injured and quite a few deaths and over 400 million in damage. Right? The warning, hit the shelter immediately. You don't really have time to think about the tornado and the lightning and things. You have to stay informed, alter your kits, make sure you have your flashlights and your whistles. All right. High rises have a plan. Every kind of shelter has a plan. Learn about what the plan is, get with your group and see what you should do. Okay. Remember we talked about the shutters, getting things that may fly apart, making the home stronger. If there's a watch for the tornado, don't wait for the warning if the symptoms are there. All right, check and monitor everything. Prepare quickly. Right? Take cover. Right? Go to interior or lower room. Here's another. If you're driving, they're telling us keep the seatbelt on and pull over, but don't go under bridges and overpasses. Yikes. Here's where the tornado came and went through, right? After the tornado, there's still more rain and there's still a lot of wind. So you have to be careful. This stuff, you think, oh, it just went through, but it can spin around and come back, right? Monitor the radios and the weather. Know how to recover. You document what happened. Is there anything left of your house, your possessions? And there's people, the Red Cross and other support services can help you do claims and get you some clothing, right? Important for you and I to learn about how to help others, how to cope with all these different things that they may have, and how to connect to them the best we can, and how to send aid, right? We want to learn how to breathe in and breathe out, breathe in and breathe out, and share with people on what to do and how to take care of themselves. Sometimes you're really helping when you tell people, all right, let's take a breath and think about this. What can we do? Knowing how to recover. There still could be what food is good or not good, right? And that many people get electrocuted after the disaster's passed, after the storm is over. We have to know about that, right? We have the stress, we have the trauma. We need to care for each other and yourself. You have to identify when you may need someone to talk to. Take a breath and get help when needed, right? So we want to return safely. We want to make sure, have someone help us with their structural damage. We know people went back in and a wall fell on them when they thought it was over. So you need to know about these natural disasters and others like it. In the past few years, the weather scientists have been saying that the weather we're having is unprecedented. The hurricanes, the tornadoes, the floods, and they're cycling closer together. They're crippling and reducing the recovery resources. We already used a whole lot of resources to get people away from the first hurricane in Florida and the Carolinas and Georgia, and then another one's come within a week. So if you don't have the resources, it's hard to help people, right? So think in terms of these long-term effects. They're profound about impacting the communities, the economies, and the systems. In hurricanes, we've got this long-term effects that we're interested in, right? About the economic impact, environmental damage, and the public health. The long-term health of some people, what they're breathing and what they're doing from people didn't know they were drinking contaminated water. Tornadoes, long-term effects, right? There's the infrastructure destruction. There's communities are displaced. I've worked with some communities down in Florida for over 2 years, and we get them all built and trying to get them set up where they can have a place to live. And then another hurricane came again after we already finished rebuilding, right? So we have to cycle. We have to learn about the strain of the cost of rebuilding and the loss of businesses. The floods, we could lose the roads, the bridges, the buildings can be damaged. And guess what? Sometimes then the local code building authorities will condemn a building and say you can't rebuild it. So that's the challenge that we're facing with recovery and long-term effects. If the local code and building enforcements won't let you even rebuild because the weather and the hurricanes, tornadoes, and floods have made so much damage. So you may need some help with that because these things all make it harder to deal with our social and cultural implications in our communities, right? So the barriers that we're trying to deal with when we have all these hurricanes and tornadoes and the flooding and other disasters hitting us in close cycles, our community engagement is very important. We have to build the trust and we have to look and seek out what we call the culturally competent care. We need to be really identify what's happening and can we go back? How can we help rebuild the existing home and make it strong again? Or is it condemned and we have to bulldoze that away and then we build all new? So this is how we need to come together, engage the community and work together in our cultures. Another thing about the industrial environmental hazards is that it's a big approach we need. We need to think about the environmental regulations, but there's some equitable disaster preparedness is needed across all the areas, all the communities, and figuring out what are the response plans of the local government, of the local groups and areas, getting the people together with the volunteers and coalitions and groups, and targeting the support. Where are these vulnerable communities? We found out that there's a whole group of trailers down along the Potomac, right? And we're already hearing trailers are not safe for tornadoes, are they? And big hurricanes. So this is what we're always trying to learn about how to help each other and how to find out who's safe ahead of time. Where will the flooding be? Where will the high winds go? The weather scientists know which way the wind goes. A lot of times they have the highs and the lows. They go along mountains. They do different things. This is what you're learning about. So here's some of the links. Angela's helping us put some links into the chat, right? And I'm ready for questions. Now we have some time as planned.
Okay, Marco. So there was a good bit of questions in the chat, and I'm gonna move through them here, and then I'm gonna move through some that we have on our list. One of the questions that I did keep seeing that came up was individuals were looking for their local or specific Red Cross information. And I do believe that Angela put that in the chat about how to get to the local Red Cross information, the local disaster response. But if you have anything else you want to add to that, or any links that you know of that maybe Angela did not put in there in the links, but I think you covered them all.
Well, even if it's covered in the link, we could talk about it. What the Red Cross, you're here by the nation's capital. So we're by the headquarters. And we have a lot of chapters. And you do that 1-800 Red Cross, or you go to that redcross.org website and you could type in what you're searching for, and they have the different services would be readily available for us that we'll be able to pick up and put in,
Okay.
have somebody call you back. So yes, and we're looking for volunteers, because look what they've done to me. They keep asking me every day, do I want to go to Florida on a vacation? Well, guess what? I showed you that thing. We've got hundreds of Red Cross shelters open. We need volunteers. We need shelter workers, right? And I'm training shelter supervisors, shelter workers here all the time, and a lot of our training is virtual, right?
Okay, Marco, another question that I have is, how should we prepare for emergencies if we are caregivers to family members living with mobility or visual challenges?
All right, that's everybody take a breath and help me think that these are big questions. These are questions that you will seek information. I'll do your research on the web and seek other counsel because I need all caregivers to already have their waste pack. I need the caregivers. I know we're starting all learning to carry some kind of backpack, but I need everybody to have their personal identification with them and not say, oh, it's home and I'm 50 minutes from where I work or where I'm giving care, right? So it's like, first, everybody, I have to think of, let's take of the individual first. They're very important to me. And I want the caregivers to know how to take care of themselves, how to have their little backpack, their little waste pack of what they need if they have to stay where they are also. So I can't have a caregiver all worried about, oh, I really need to get home because my kids are coming home at 4 o'clock and the babysitter won't be able to get there because of the hurricane, right? So, or my kids are going to be out of school or something. So it's like, know where the information is. Where is the case files? Where's the minimum information that if you're told to stay or evacuate, how do you evacuate all the functional needs? But we're talking about having the medication ready. Do you have things ready if you have to go? So what fits in a waste pack? What fits in a lice backpack? I'm helping people that are wheelchairs and walkers and canes, but each person, you try to see how you take care of the caregiver and then how we provision and know what we have. This is a question almost in facilities that get flooded. I mean, just think of Louisiana in Katrina and then again in Rita and then again now. And it's like hospitals, caregiving centers. The facility can hold some things if you stay. But if it gets underwater or the winds are very high, the challenge is to prepare ahead, make the plan, work with the organizations. And did you remember we had a chart and the chart said, build that network? Get those people together to say, you're telling us to evacuate and I'm hooked up here in my hospital bed in my dining room. I'm at home. Or even if you're in a senior center, you may not be able to take all the equipment with you. You need to work with the organizations. They have plans and templates to help you answer those kind of things. It's not something we just answer real quick. It's focused to what the needs are.
And Marco, I know that was a loaded question, and I think you definitely provided a great response. And so that leads me to my next question. And what you were saying is we need to have a plan. So we need to have a plan and we need to prepare and we need to practice this ahead of time. But a question that came up is, how often should you and your family actually practice this emergency plan?
Well, it's like we talk about the smoke alarms. You test them once a month. We have Red Cross and the fire departments. We put in free smoke alarms. We do free home fire safety check. And I'll come and crawl around the floor with the kids and grandkids and show how we crawl out the door, get low and go. So it's like monthly, we say, take the broomstick and put it up there and let it go beep as a test. Learn, there's a test button on it. We have 10-year smoke detectors now. And you don't change the batteries. Every 10 years, you change the whole thing. So you practice, so don't wait 10 years to practice. They say, okay, or practice quarterly, or is everybody coming over for Thanksgiving? Pick a holiday, pick some time when you have people together and fill that house. Now, how, if everybody's sleeping overnight for the holidays, then how are you going to get out if that thing goes off at 2 a.m? What are you going to do? And that's why I tell people, have a jeans and sweatshirt and some slip-on shoes by your bed. When that goes off, you got some clothes. I have seen people run out barefoot in their sleeping attire, which isn't sometimes too happy for them if it's cold or hot outside or something. So look in when you have people together, you practice, make a plan, say, how do I get out of my house for fire safety? But what roads? How many people? It's a good thing for the chat. How many people have a paper map folded up into their waist pack or their backpack? So if they're told to go, and if they're driving, what roads are they going to take? And did you already check with your local government to see that? I thought, man, I live by interstates. I'm hopping on an interstate and I'm heading out of town. Guess what? The interstates are already closed because they're getting everybody out of DC. I don't get to get on the interstate. Then there's other places, they have county and other roads that are for their emergency equipment. And only the fires and the ambulances go. So you take a plan, you're not alone. We had that slide of build, your team, build your network, talk to the people who already have a plan. A lot of local government, if you're in a building, when I go to the library is required to have a plan. If I have to stay there, if I evacuate from the library, they know what roads get out of town from the library, the rec center. We do these plans for faith-based organizations, churches, temples, mosques, everybody should have the same kind of plan if you go, if you have to stay.
Okay, thank you, Marco. And the person that mentioned that in the chat, that was actually good. If you have to evacuate, you may not have a GPS, so you definitely need to have a map like Marco spoke about. And also just making sure that you alert people to where you're going, because you might not be able to use, a telephone. But one other question we have, which is true, is that disasters can be very stressful. So are there any therapists available at Red Cross shelters in the event someone displays increased emotional distress or anxiety?
Yes, yes, yes. For every Red Cross, like I'm a shelter supervisor, and when I was supervising a shelter open up in the DC area, and I've been out of town, I've been to others across the United States. And guess what? In shelter supervisor school, and I'm an instructor, so guess what? Yes, we supervisors and as shelter associates and every volunteer is trained, and we get a little covered card to put in our wallet to say, when you have a client in the shelter or when someone calls you on the phone seeking assistance, there's these things we could say, and here you refer them to the Red Cross disaster services nurse.
Okay.
Then the disaster services nurse has disaster mental health.
Okay.
Then there's disaster mental health. We also have disaster spiritual care. So from Marco as just the supervisor in the shelter and the feeding, and then there is the nurse, disaster mental health, and disaster spiritual care. So we really care about the people in who's saying, I lost everything, but I'm glad I grabbed my teddy bear.
Right. Well, Marco, I think I have time for maybe one more question. It's 1:58. But does the Red Cross assist if you have to stay longer? So does the Red Cross assist with a longer temporary placement if the homeowner is unable to return home quickly or rebuild quickly?
There, when you're in the Red Cross shelter or other shelters and the Red Cross is assisting with family services and other services, there becomes right away a relief and recovery team. So your local government will be there, your county, your cities, the states, the commonwealths, and your federals, and the people will help you fill out more than one form. And they'll have this integrated of trying to build the case of what to do. Sometimes the Red Cross, we go down every regular tours, 2 weeks, 14 days. Then we rest, then we go again. The shelter I served in Northern California, FEMA level 7 fires, the wildfires, when it burned for a year, we were 4 months in Red Cross shelter. But we would try to work and connect you with available services when the Red Cross, there is a point where we say, okay, now it's your local government or if it's your state or FEMA will help you.
Okay, thank you. So Marco, we are, and Ms. Telesford, we are right at 1:59. Marco, we definitely enjoyed the presentation, and on behalf of the National Caucus and Center on Black Aging Incorporated, we would like to thank you for taking time out for this timely conversation. I think that we can see with the last hurricanes that we've experienced in the last 2 weeks that this information is definitely needed and timely, and making a plan and preparing definitely is very important, especially for us as individuals and those of us that care for individuals. So Marco, we thank you and we appreciate your time that you spent with us today. And so I'm going to let Ms. Telesford close it up if there's anything else remaining.
Thank you, Keisha. Thank you, Marco. We so appreciate you here at the NCBA Incorporated. We just really appreciate when you come and give us such pertinent information. Thank you. We just released, it's 2 o'clock, and thank everybody for coming. Let's keep, as I put my information in the chat. If you need anything, please email me for slides or anything. Marco was, just was able to give me the PDF. So if you need his slides, we have that because he had a lot of information he couldn't share. Thank you and good afternoon. Enjoy the rest of the afternoon. Stay safe. Get a plan. Be Red Cross ready. All right. Thank you. Bye-bye.